Alright, so before I get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I think it's probably for the best if I go into a little background info on the fire giants and their fell god and what happened to them and all that. So way back before the Erd Tree and all of that shit, the giants and their lesser kin, the trolls, dominated the snowy mountaintops of the far north. In contrast to the region's frozen environment, the giants possessed the element of fire, which as we all know was invented by the firebenders of the hit Nickelodeon series Avatar: The Last Airbender. These fire giants even went to war with the ice dragons for control of the territory, obviously winning because fire melts ice, well sometimes at least. There was only one group of holdout enemies that the giants couldn't crush. I'm of course referring to the ice-wielding fringe race of Zamor warriors from the town of Zamor, who would become their age-old rivals. Oh look at that, a song of ice and fire. But anyways, Marika rolled up and recruited the Zamor, and with the help of her golden armies and the traitorous trolls, pretty much genocided the giants out of existence. Possibly using briar magic, as the massive corpses of the giants that litter the mountaintops all appear to be impaled in various ways by like thorny tree branches that at first kind of look like big ass spears and maybe look like death blight trees, but probably aren't. But Queen Marika, upon learning she couldn't really destroy the Flame of Ruin or the Fell God, cursed the last living giant to tend the flame for eternity, trapping the Fell God of Fire effectively out of sight and out of mind. She would then appoint a group of guardians to watch over the giant's flame, likely the local warriors that were said to be native to the north that we could even pick in our starting class, or starting race. But she did this basically to keep people away from the flame and its like alluring nature. These guardians would then become known as the fire monks, charged with garrisoning the mountains of the far north. They wield flame incantations that channel the power of the now dead giants. It's possible that the trolls that stayed behind after the war, inhabiting the mountaintops, that maintained some connection to their giant ancestors, taught them these abilities for some kind of a price, perhaps.
Here's your toll, troll.
As these Alan Moore-looking trolls still seem to possess some kind of connection to their ancestors, as they can channel flames at will. But it seems more likely to me that after an extended period of time of them guarding the Flame of Ruin, that they possibly just established their own connection to the Fell God after their order had slowly begun worshipping it, as indicated from most of their item descriptions. So this cult of the Fell God has its own kind of hierarchy, being led from the top by the Great Guardian's garrison at the foot of the Flame Peak by a chief named Arganthy. So him and his guardians seem to like oversee the monks, and his guards may only be loyal to him, similar to like Palpatine, and maybe separate from the overall hierarchy of the fire monks, but I don't know. It just seemed possible. Because there's no actual fire monks inside the garrison, which I thought seemed kind of weird. But anyway, Arganthy wields this big-ass shield forged in the likeness of the Fell God. It's like got this big-ass eye that can shoot laser beams from it, or fire in this case. But as previously stated, the fort's interior is guarded exclusively by like flame guardians and some dogs and a rat here and there. The flame guardians themselves seem to be inspired by the founders of the order, specifically called guardians, but these dudes are suspiciously NPC enemies, so you know, frenzy and deathblight work here. But the first link on the chain of command is the extremely cool looking prelates. Garbed in thick black iron armor and wielding these big ass red hammers that emit flame and are called croziers. These big motherfuckers drape their armor in red cloth, signifying their allegiance to the Fell God. These dudes are basically like the bishops for the religion of fire, but they also serve as field marshals when the need arises. They lead the fire monks proper and have a fountain on their heads called a cranial vessel that they can erupt at will, supposedly out of sheer faith to their god. The helmets themselves resemble the faces of fire giants, and the prelate's large and wide stature was said to be symbolic of the vows they took to guard the flame. This self-congratulatory sense of pride was apparently something that was common to the prelates, as one particular one by the name of Burak, considered the most hallowed monk, blew everyone's nips off with his utter faith to the cult when he severed his own head and jammed it onto a candle stand as a lesson to those monks who treated the fire with such a lazy fucking arrogance.
That's how you get off. Now, don't you guys want to get off with me? I don't know. What?
And supposedly his faith still smolders from within the fucking cranial vessel. It's a dope weapon with a cool backstory, but like, could you imagine working with someone or for someone like this? Like, it actually reminds me of when I worked at a pizza place. The owner even looked like a prelate. But the next link down the chain is the fire monks themselves. These guys appear to be like large, red, bearded dudes that are possibly of the same descent as the northern starting race that was said to be descended from giants. But they don blazing red robes along with armor forged in the likeness of their fell god. They often lead groups of various sizes of Thornblood sorcerers, who themselves were either prisoners or criminals, or both, at some point, and now appear to be occupying some type of Game of Thrones Night's Watch role, or possibly deeper cut, Legion of the Dead role, as backup to the fire monks, accompanying them on long expeditions and serving as sentries at the Guardian's garrison. These guys are pretty weak, but in large numbers they can kind of be a nuisance, casting briars from every fucking direction. Something the forces of Leyndell learned the hard way over at Mount Gilmere. The fire monks themselves are skilled warriors, armed with either a flame mace or a ridiculously rare and hard to find flame sword. They also carry a sacred seal depicting the fell god's eye and adorned with like giant's braids that they use to cast various incantations that channel the power of the giants. So basically they're a group of dudes that were appointed to guard an extremely seductive god, and spoiler alert, they eventually began worshipping it, likely due to all that fear and obsession they were charged with originally, which is something of a recurring theme in this game. But what's any good religion without a schism or two, and a theft of sacrilegious proportions? So this is where the speculation comes in. Basically, the fire monks were just chilling, doing their thing, guarding the mountain, when one day a thief, possibly one of the criminals that was sent to be a servant to the monks, or possibly it was something more premeditated, but for whatever reason, he managed to steal a very powerful incantation that was considered a portion of the fell god's remaining power, and also the greatest secret of the fire monks, that the fell god still existed within the last of the fire giants. The thief could have also been a defector from their ranks, as he wears the altered version of the prelate's armor, the one without the red cloth, along with the hood of a fire monk, so it's entirely possible for him to be a traitor. And if so, like he definitely wouldn't be the last, as we're going to find out in a little bit. It's possible also that he was a prisoner of theirs, but escaped, salvaging armor in the process. But for whatever the reason, he managed to escape with their most guarded secret, so you can imagine a pretty big response was warranted. Chief Guardian Arganthy then dispatched at least one prelate along with a large force of fire monks and an even larger company of Thorn Sorcerer servants to track down this thief. This large expeditionary force would burn a bloody path through the lands between, likely first descending on Gelmir, where the monks defeated the Leyndell and possibly Gelmir soldiers and claimed Fort LAIEDD for themselves, leaving a prelate and a sizable portion of Thorn sorcerers behind to hold it, along with a few fire monks to command them, while the rest of the force continued south, burning their way down through Liurnia, searching for the thief who presumably left some kind of a trail, as they're on the right track. But in Gelmir, I believe, is where the schism happened. Although it could very well have happened before the theft of fire, but it's hard to determine where they would have glimpsed the god-killing black flame, as it refers to Amon as the first of the traitors. But what we do know is that a fire monk named Amon would come across either a godskin noble or apostle, could be either one, possibly the one in Gelmir, or maybe the one at Dominula, the windmill village, or possibly some unknown one. But he would then swear allegiance to the Black Flame, mostly out of fear of its god-killing abilities, which was kind of like the original reason the fire monks began worshipping the fell god in the first place, was the fact that, it was super powerful and super seductive. So I guess the proclivity for worshipping fire gods doesn't really change depending on the color of the flame. I mean, I'm surprised that there isn't a third subgroup of monks that doesn't exist, but ones that would wear orange and worship the frenzied flame. Maybe we'll see that in the DLC or something. But anyway, Amon would become the first Black Flame monk, before eventually being killed and turned into spirit ashes that would be picked up by some stray mimic tier and end up in a ruin full of angry ass little dudes. But some would follow in his footsteps, exchanging their red robes for white ones that resembled that of the godskins, and they'd trade in their giant seal for that of a god-slaying one. A few could even be found by the events of the game. One is guarding its godskin master at the temple in Volcano Manor, while the other is suspiciously guarding the basement of Caelid's Divine Tower.
Yeah, and then he showed the finger. That was the big one.
The dead finger got you off.
That was the climax,
I am
really.
so confused.
Oh my god, it was amazing. It was mostly sexual.
God damn you.
But in all seriousness, though, he's just serving his godskin master like the other guy. And these guys still wield the weapons of their own previous station, but infuriatingly do not drop them and only drop the armor, which is still pretty cool, I guess, but I mean, it's pretty fucking frustrating. But anyway, while these dudes were off worshipping like foreskin wearing lizard dudes,
Just a couple of people who totally got off, bro.
the rest of the Fire Monks expeditionary force had reached Liurnia, having set up folksy encampments along the sinking marshlands. Determined to finally catch this thief, they seemed to like send out search parties at random intervals from these camps, which usually consist of one monk leading several sorcerers. And they aren't too far off, as the thief, who himself is named Adon, is trapped in an Everjail which isn't very far from a nearby encampment of theirs. His imprisonment is likely the work of either Carian nobles or possibly wizards of the academy. I mean, it's possible that the fire monks imprisoned him there, but they seem to still be searching for the flame, and he still possesses it if we defeat him. Like, we get it from him. So it seems highly unlikely that they're the ones who imprisoned him there. So a lot of things in here are like open to interpretation, but the story of the fire monks and their flame being stolen and the fact that black flame monks schismed off, that's all pretty much set in stone. I mean, like, I threw in a healthy dose of speculation, like Adon's identity and, you know, when Amon turned traitor, but like most of it is all pretty much set in fact. Like, that's all I could really dig up on it so far. I mean, maybe I did miss a few things, and obviously you guys will always tell me if I did, but that was pretty much all I could find on them. Oh, a couple things I forgot to mention were probably that the camps that they've built in Liurnia are made with briar thornwood or whatever it is, which, I mean, they have no short supply of, as they live in the fucking mountaintops of the giants. And also that the guardians, the flame guardians, the NPC ones, they appear to be wearing the same mask as the minor Erdtree guardians, which could suggest a similar heritage. They might not be descendants of the northern men, and instead be just descendants of whoever the original Erdtree guardian guys were before they started growing into trees. Just a couple things I forgot to mention and felt that I should bring up. I hope you guys found it informative. You know, I just saw Zoli's video about the trolls, and I really wish I would have seen that before making my troll video, but, you know, these things happen. Anyway, though, if you guys like the video, please like. I appreciate that. If you like my videos in general, please, I suggest to subscribe. That'd be really cool. If you didn't like it, you know, dislike it. If you have any counter opinions, please throw them in the comments. If you have any anything to add to the discussion of the fire monks, please share in the comments. But my next video will probably be out either, you know, tomorrow or the next day. But I think I'm going to do one about the Kaidans first, and then I'm going to get into my demigod video. But until then, I'll see you guys, and have a good one. Peace.
All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.